We're bringing our guest for this hour, joining us to discuss National Trial Attorney Michael Jaafar. You know, it's interesting, Michael, because I thought one of the comments, Kaylee Gonzalez's sister, you know, she had the insight in her comments to talk about the fact that, you know what, you think you're so smart, but you're not. And I think that whole line where she went down that was the one thing, the one way I think you could really get to a guy, as we're learning more about Kohberger through these documents, how you could really get to him.
Yeah, there's a precedent for this type of person, this type of sociopathy. I watched a documentary a few years ago about the BTK killer. That person actually was a police officer. And the documentary broke down the psychology of a person just like the BTK killer, which I see a lot of parallels with Kohberger. And they surreptitiously recorded him before the interview, after the interview, before they caught him, after they caught him. And what they found was that people like the BTK killer and people like Kohberger want to be found, and they love the attention. And for them, it's a gross, grotesque, morbid type of art form for them because of their mental health issues. And so the BTK killer, when he was uncovered, he actually enjoyed talking to investigators about how he did it, how he covered his tracks, what he did to cover his tracks. And then he even told the interviewer after he confessed everything, I feel great. This feels really good. And then later on, when all the attention went away, he was interviewed again. He said, I made a mistake. I'm depressed. Nobody's giving me attention anymore. This was the BTK killer. And I'm seeing the same thing in these interviews with Brian Kohberger. I think that's the mental health issues right there, right like on par with one another.
Yeah, I would have to agree. And it's interesting because I think that partly can explain why he went back the next morning, again, to get that high again, to see what was going on, people paying attention to his work, how that was going. I want to read a little bit more from that interview that he did. Again, this is Detective Gilbertson. So he says, then Detective Gilbertson asked Kohberger about his move to Washington. Kohberger said that he drove across country and wanted the challenge of driving cross country and experiencing it with his father. Kohberger then said that he took a different route back home with his father for Christmas break to avoid snow. Kohberger spoke about his travels and the risks of such travels in winter. And Marie, again, I think what we're seeing here, and it's interesting because, again, the police officers want to keep him talking, but he seems very happy to continue talking. He asks them if it's okay if he keeps talking. And this goes back to something that the judge said at sentencing. He says he hopes no one goes and tries to give him an opportunity to tell his story, make money off his story. This is an interesting issue here because, again, he seems to like to talk. He may want to tell his story. He may want to explain why he did what he did. He may want to explain why he may make it seem like he allowed them to catch him because, again, he's so clued into this idea that he's the most intelligent guy or smartest guy in the room. So the question is, do you think someone might try to talk to him? I think that's a clear yes, but will he want to talk to them? And it's interesting, Mike, because I think that's the thing that probably scares him the most. The sense that I get is that the irrelevancy is going to be the problem for him, because one could say it was the irrelevancy or his inability to sort of break into the sort of this mainstream lifestyle that might have led him to this crime.
Yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The avatar of a Brian Kohberger is well known to criminal justice. It's well known. This is not a surprise to anybody the way he is, and he is going to face a lot of. He's going to wish that he had the death penalty. And honestly, the state of Idaho, and I'm going to be pilloried online for saying this, the state of Idaho did the family a favor by doing this plea without consulting them, because look, I can go on and on and on from my personal experience and my family and my older brother and all of that, and why, sometimes the government has to step in and make a decision that families don't accept. But at the end of the day, this Brian Kohberger is a menace. A trial would have given him the platform he wanted. He wanted a platform. And let's look at the facts, right? Since 1976, only 3 people have been executed in the state of Idaho. The last one was 13 years ago. And there's only 8 people on death row in Idaho, and the appeals process is decades and decades and decades in Idaho. So it's not exactly like a trial would have been better for the family, would have been better for Brian Kohberger. So at the end of the day, my money's on the fact that maybe Brian Kohberger might identify as another gender after 5 years in prison and say, I can't handle this, because he's going to be very, very, very badly treated in prison.
Yeah, and even if they went to trial, I'm not sure the families would have gotten the answer that they wanted at trial. At least that's the sense I'm getting. National Trial Attorney Michael Jaafar. Mike, what do you make of that part, the things that he wants to talk about here, pontificating about, you know, the beauty of nature, talking about God, all of those things. Again, it's these strange tangents that is going on, difficult to understand.
It's the sociopathy. It's the same one as I've seen from prior people, just like Brian Kohberger. That's why I brought up the BTK killer. It's just the attention seeking. He thinks he's more interesting than he actually is, but clearly there's something wrong. Any normal human being, if we put ourselves in the frame of mind of a normal human being, right? A normal human being, if they cut their hand and they bleed, they panic, they get a Band-Aid, they put Neosporin, and this is like a traumatic event for a few hours, right? If they ever accidentally do it to another human being, they're panicked for weeks, right? Brian Kohberger did this to 4 innocent people, viciously stabbed them, killed them, right? He didn't press a button and cause their death. He did something that is the most grotesque thing that you could do. So this is a person who's not only well-adjusted, he missed a turn at the proper developmental stage with his brain growing up, where it just made him this way. Some developmental turn in his brain synapse happened, fired the wrong way, where he's not only not a normal person, he's a sociopath and a killer. And so he wants the attention. He wants people to give him the acclaim. It's the same avatar as any other person just like him. It's disgusting. It's sad. I feel bad for these families. I actually know what they're facing. I actually know what they're dealing with. So that's what I see.
Mike, because I think as you go into thinking about the meticulous planning that went into this crime, I don't think it's a coincidence that he chose a night that he know perhaps they'd be out drinking late, and that it might affect their ability to respond to what he was going to be trying to do.
Absolutely.
I didn't think about that until you just said it, but yeah, that actually makes it even more gross. And so he stalked them. He prepared. He planned, and so it's all in line with everything that happened and with his personality. And so it's very disgusting. He held a place of trust in that community with his position at the university. You know, him being a part-time teacher. I mean, at the end of the day, this is the worst thing. Every single parent out there has a kid in college, either now or in the past or in the future, right? And so how do you prevent something like this? You really can't. How do you, you can't. It's just the luck of the draw. These families were just unlucky, right? My older brother was just unlucky. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Anyone who's had a family member murdered by a sociopath, it's just the luck of the draw. It's just pure, dumb, blind, bad luck.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah, Mike, I hear you. And you know, I agree with you guys, because we found out that he was on Tinder. So clearly he wanted that aspect of his life. You know, that's something that he wanted. Sometimes some people are more focused on other things, but clearly that's something he wanted. Mike, real quick, I got about 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's exactly. So I co-sign what Marie said. That's exactly what it is. That's the avatar. He wanted the attention. He didn't get the attention. Had he gotten the attention, he would have murdered more people. He might have murdered the person in a relationship with him. Exact BTK killer profile. This is what Brian Kohberger is.
All right, guys, stand by. That's going to do it, actually, right now. That sentencing set for tomorrow. Still with us, National Trial Attorney Michael Jaafar. Guys, I got my hands on the sentencing motion by the prosecutors. Essentially, the key is that they want these crimes to run consecutive. Of course, they want the life in prison without parole. They want them to run consecutive for both crimes, as well as consecutive to the Idaho crimes. Again, asking a lot, but then their argument is that these are individual crimes with individual victims who have suffered both emotional and financial pain, as well as the families. Michael Jaafar.
Part of me wants to say that that's too much. It's a reach. The other part of me says she brought it onto herself. I still flummox that she did not give a young attorney the opportunity to have the case of his or her career and his or her courtroom moment and defend her and win that third trial. So she brought it onto herself. So at the end of the day, I really don't care if they go with this. But you know what? It is excessive in a normal case. Had she been aptly defended, and even if she lost the cases, then I would be up in arms and say, that's too much. You're just piling on.
Yeah, she did represent herself, and it's interesting. That clearly makes sense. And I've been amazed throughout the trial how good her hair did look, actually, Michael. It's interesting. I really was. I even commented to people around the office. I'm like, how does she get her hair that good while she's in prison? But that's besides the point. I digress. But why do you think, Mike, why do you think she did choose to represent herself? Is go back to this idea that she still believes that she's this exalted being in some way and is protected by some other thing that I guess eventually will deliver her from all this?
I'm flummoxed by the decision for her to represent herself. I'm so confused as to that decision, because that third case was almost like a slam dunk acquittal if she had any attorney representing her. I don't know why she did it. It was I'm gonna take Marie's. I'm gonna steal her phrase, Lori Daybell. It was dumb with a capital D. I have no idea why she did it. It made no sense. There is so many. Can you imagine a young Mike Jaafar right now having the opportunity with no experience to represent Lori Daybell on national TV and being covered on court TV? I would have used if I could have ethically paid her for the privilege of representing her, I would have done it. But I would have literally done the case for free. Any young attorney would have done the case for free and won and built a whole. I'd be living on this case 40 years from now. So I promise you, dozens and dozens of qualified lawyers begged her to take her case on pro bono. Why she said no, I have no idea. Michael, I love no contest pleas. I want to go for it on the record saying I love no contest pleas. I disagree with Maria.
5 seconds. Why?
I love no contest pleas. There's sometimes they're relevant. As a defense attorney, it kind of helps you get a client to plead guilty. So it helps you.
All right, I got to cut you off, Mike. I'm sorry. Got to cut you off.